I can keep time if no one else wants to as well.
Okay. So how much time per, how many students? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we have
I think
90
it's,
minutes.
yeah, I think it's 13 minutes per student.
Okay.
I'm the first one on the list. Do I just go ahead and start?
Go. Yeah.
Okay.
I hope you guys had a nice break and that and a nice semester. So today's a big day, no? Like after this, start the vacation, no? More or less, or do you have a lot of other things after this?
Yeah, after this, I think our design class and our VisCom class is over. So that's 2 classes out of the way.
Good. Well, let's get started.
Okay. So hi, my name's Aleida. So to kind of summarize my narrative and intent a little bit, I was inspired by James Turrell's Sky Spaces and the idea of self-awareness created through direct experiences with light and nature. The intent of this design is really to exploit the many positive qualities of nature and natural lighting for the benefit of the inhabitant in their research and other experiences in the spaces. There's an intended enhancement of living with the spaces that open outwards and allow the user to be immersed with what is already around them. That's my first slide. Here are the drawings I made for the model. On the left is the lower floor plan where you can see a contrast between an enclosed space and a progression of openness as you move to the left. I attempted to create an upward motion with the stair-like floor that leads to the longest vertical opening that's over here, located on the west side. So it's just like a contrast that I tried creating here.
Can you show me that in section at the same time, that space in section?
I'm sorry?
Can you show me that same space in section with your mouse?
Yes, so I kind of, these are the sections and here's the more enclosed space versus like coming forward. The more open area, which is right here and right here.
So how are these sections taken? Can you show in the plan where have they been taken?
Yes, so this section, I'm sorry, I didn't really have like construction lines that go down. This is more right here on this side. And then this is right here, cutting across like the open areas. So then on the right side, I have another floor plan that is at like a higher elevation, which is where there's the greatest amount of connection to the outside, as well as like just has more natural lighting. This floor plan was created with Turrell's philosophy of light in mind, but also the idea of being able to perform research. Being able to perform research in an area that makes you self-aware as equally as it makes you aware of the world, you know, around and the area that you are researching. And then here again, these are the sections. And it's kind of like, so it goes from enclosed to open, and then it's the opposite towards the top, from open to more enclosed. And then up here is the upper research area, which has an opening at the top, which is kind of the exception because nowhere else is there like an opening like the one on the top. And then here are pictures of the sections of my model, which kind of show like the paths. So at the bottom is the more enclosed going up to the open area, and then at the top as well, it opens up on both sides. And then here is the opening that runs like north to south, which these two connect. And as a result of these open spaces, I was able to, or I had the opportunity to like play with alignment in the model. So as you can see here in the middle section at the top and then towards the bottom, I tried creating these spaces of alignment which derived from the idea that James Turrell kind of focuses on, that like it kind of creates literal and sometimes metaphorical portals throughout the structure that frame the outside as well as the light that comes inside. And then just the last point that I kind of wanted to touch on was the verticality of the design. I think this was inspired by the like spiritual qualities that light can have, and also just a combination of modern time and like the pandemic. I really tried embracing physical activity or movement, upward movement, to kind of just have this. So like the verticality of the building attempts to embrace physical activity among stagnant research areas. So kind of a contrast, and furthers self-awareness through the motion of the body, tying this movement with an experience of light at different levels. So it's like upward movement. And then at the bottom, the last slide, there's just more pictures of the design overall. That's kind of the end of my presentation.
Well, thank you. Aleida, is that how you say your name?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Wonderful. I mean, I really enjoyed your presentation. Also the proposal. I think particularly the richness of and the variety of spaces that you are creating. And I think this is for all of you guys to think about. Think how small this unit is that you have designed, and how rich in terms of different different ways of perceiving space and light and the outdoors from it, if you compare to the spaces probably that you are and the rooms where you are right now. No, so if we think of like the homogeneity of most of the built environment, a lot of the rooms that we inhabit, and the richness that you have generated in such a smaller space. So it's a very small space, but there's so many different ways to so many different so much stimulus, no, coming from the difference in levels, the difference in heights, the difference like looking out, looking up, light coming to the building or to the spaces, to these inside spaces from different apertures, and therefore with from different angles during the day. And it does almost look as a kind of viewing mechanism, no, that you have designed with all these different apertures, right, to look out. So I think that's all really clear. The one thing I think that is missing, and that I really encourage you to do over the break, is if light is so important, and once in your presentation you talk about the work of Terrell and the importance. I mean, obviously, light is fundamental. I mean, in his work, it has to do a lot with artificial lighting as well. So a combination of natural light sources and artificial light sources. And I think obviously the artificial lighting part is like not something that you can engage on this semester. But the natural light, you need to use this model to prove your concept. And I think the pity in these photographs of your model is that there's no light source. There's no, and I think is with these casting shadows and the real and outdoor light that you can make a more compelling set of photographs that really start pairing with what you're saying, you know, because it's very weird to talk about light and then even if you think about this as a sculpture, you know, we would want to see it in the context of light, of a strong light, no, to see how shadows are casted, etc. But I think particularly if you could capture, it would be good. I think the set, can you go up a little bit with your images?
Yes.
The set of photographs that you have provided are really good as descriptive of, if you notice, all your images are descriptive of how this house or this building is as an object. We're looking at it from outside, we're looking at the whole thing. So they serve this particular purpose of describing the building very well as a volume, as an object for an outside viewer that doesn't know it. No, so in that respect, these images 100% success. But there's other ways, that other things that you can do with your model, which is taking images that are more suggestive of the experience of being inside these spaces. So I think it's very nice. Like I like the intentionality of some of these images when you talk about. Stay there 1 second. This image here, I think is really nice. The fact that we really start. This I feel is more intentional because we really start seeing the lining up of the two of the spaces, and how and that has to do a lot with the things that you have been talking about, and how these openings are curated to provoke particular experiences. So if you could capture some of those from like closer up, through photography and through and using light, no, so most importantly, taking the model outside, and then you can Photoshop it in the same way, or do it in a way that you can mostly have the sky, and it can also work as well. I would avoid having like grass here, obviously, or feet, or things not that are misleading. No, so you want to.
Yeah.
But I think a stronger light would help a lot. And then in terms of other few comments is, and these are more pragmatic in terms of things that could that would need a little bit of a tweaking in terms of functional performance of the spaces. No, your stairs, like just as a rough guideline, for a stair to be like of a standard comfort, it can never be more than 30. It should be between 30 and 45. This is 45-degree. No, this angle is 45. That means it's very,
Yeah, they're a little bit steeper.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then of course the access to that pit. No, how is the access to the pit taking place right now?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
How do you access the pit underneath the hole?
Oh,
space
so
that
right
is
here, there's like a little step. So I think this is just half a foot or a foot. And then this down here is a ramp here. I have like right here. So it goes from here and it goes down this way. And then there's the other section of the ramp, which I think is shown more in my, no, I don't have the back side, but it's a ramp that goes and then it leads on to the floor over here.
Okay, normally you want to make your circulation closer to the perimeter. No, it's easier to navigate if you start here and then bend down there. But I think I mean here is more interesting. Where you have it, maybe it's more interesting because you have a better flow of the circulation of coming down from this one and picking up on the other one.
Yeah, I kind of placed it there on purpose, like to align. I kind of started with the model, like the building itself, and then kind of focused on the pit. And I realized that like the alignment would have been an issue if I would have placed it more over here because I had already made this opening. So that's what did that. But yeah, I agree. It would probably be better towards like the perimeter.
Or if you have it there because you're interested in this kind of continuity, how do you start modeling this stair so it feels like it's from the family from this one? It would also need the railing plane, right? And yeah, I wonder if they could feel more of the family, you know, as a sequence, instead of thinking of this is one thing and this is something else, thinking about that circulation, the whole circulation of the house in a more holistic way, where they're all interrelated. It's same inside, And then in the section, if you go, I mean, or to your plan, if you go to your plan,
I hate to interrupt,
yeah,
but at
we need to
times
move on.
up.
Okay, so the very last thing will be same about these steps that you have here in your plan. I think I would question the irregularity of this and how it really is, how can that really be occupied? Because we also need a certain kind of rhythm and in order not to trip over things or have to be thinking all the time, what kind of step can I take now, etc. No, so yeah, I wonder a little bit about that, but overall, wonderful work. Really, really, I would love to come here and hang out. I think the spaces are fantastic. And the only thing I'm really missing, all the things that I said about like those technicalities, those are easy to fix.
The lighting.
Yeah, the only thing that I really would love to see is this these photographs in the light. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I realized that a little too late. Once I was already like placing the images, I was like, well, I should have probably explored that too.
Mm-hmm. Okay, next.
Thank
Great.
you so much.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Who's next?
I think
Is
Serena's
it in the
next.
order of the least?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's me.
Serena, you're also in Interiors and Society, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Nice. But I see you this evening then.
Wait, we're having class today?
Yeah. So
Oh,
tell
yeah.
everybody, very important, because we're having like it's a nice class because we're going. Michael Schu's office is gonna be presenting their work.
Oh, yeah, right.
So yeah, you just have to watch and enjoy. They do beautiful projects. You're really gonna regret it if you miss it. So
Okay,
I know you're tired, but come, please.
okay.
Okay, go.
So, hi, I'm Serena. As you know, I'm an interior design major. And yep, so here's my building. I'll just read the little paragraph. So this is a research building that's designed for the UT scholars to work in an inspiring, aesthetic, and comfortable space. The design concept of the building is dream. So basically, I was working on this based on the book called Interpretations of Dream. And so the design concept is like just like a dream, everything's like connected within a dream. So within the building, there's no like obvious divider between spaces. So whoever stand inside of the building can possibly see every corner of the building. In addition to that, the idea that dream is revealing the unconsciousness of a person is emphasizing by all the fenestrations in natural light. So I just want to talk about the entrance. So for me, like I feel dream is more like revealing your true self, and then like showing what's inside of you, instead of like during the normal time you kind of like close up yourself in front of everybody because you have like secrets, you have like everything. So like this entrance is kind of like like a big invitations for you to like enter this like dream, like imaginations, like a playful space. So as you can see, like on the front of the building, you can see like the building that's like the windows that's like rising up, which is like reflecting the vertical circulations inside of the building, which is like also like going up. And also like I didn't really like have like a really, so I'll go to the next page so you can see. Okay, so here's the plan and section. So if you look at the section on the bottom left corner, that's the section that's facing north, which is the back of the front side of the building. So the second floor is not going all the way. It's only like half of the building. So like on the right side of the building, if you're standing on the first floor, you can see all the way to the ceiling. So basically, if you're like standing at the entrance, you can see like the entire building. You have like a whole view of it. So like right here. So for the first floor, here's the window with that little Z shape tables. That's for standing research and sitting research. And so for the second floor, it should be like a little meeting room or discussion room. And then if you look at the left model, there's a little room on the top left corner that should be like a little resting space. It should have like a bed in there. So if you like go across the meeting room, you can like sleep or take a break over there. And right under the stairs, you see like a shelf that's for book storage. And on the right side, so if you look at the left pictures, on the right side, it's like a little man sitting on the, it's like a sitting area for people to like read books and like do research. And the opening should be covered by the clear glass window. It's not like open into like outside. It's all like interior space. So if you see like the opening, it should all be like glass. And yeah, and that's the front and the right side, and that's the left side of the building, and that's just little squares. It's the window, and I have all these like textures of the buildings on the surface of the exterior building. It's just to like express the like how dream is like I think for me, like dream is more like fun. It's more like happiness. So like I have expressed dreams as like really playful things. So this entire buildings is to show like a happiness or like dreams, something like that. So that's why I have all this like little textures on buildings. And yeah, that's it. If you want me to go back to somewhere.
The these photographs are nice because you have a lot of light, no?
Thank you.
A lot of contrast in the, yeah, they're very nice. I think your approach to the project is very interesting. I can see that there's a lot of attention to detail, where you're really imagining occupying each of the corners of the space, and even starting to think about the furniture, which is also very important at the level of interiors, no? In that is the furniture that tells us what to do, no, within a given space that enable us to occupy the space. So I think that's really nice that you took that initiative and started thinking a little bit about the furniture, and I really enjoyed your approach with this idea of the dream. I would, when presenting your projects or like thinking about these ideas that are more like metaphors or more conceptual, I think the key, what is key, is to try to translate that into something that is physical. So there, for example, you said, I think dreams for me are about happiness. That's a bit vague because it's like, so, and what is happiness especially? Or how does that translate into a space? Or you said it's about fun, and then, but then what is fun in a space? What do you understand as, what's for you the translation of fun especially? That's, as a designer, that's that translation is the one that you need to make. keeping in mind that, of course, a lot of these things are very subjective, but even if it's a subjective interpretation, you need to tell us what is it, how is it that you interpret this? So, for example, is fun in a space? How does fun translate in a space? Is fun about having different, a variety of experiences, or is it about the unexpected? Is it, I can see that you are playing a little bit with the unexpected, you're playing a little bit with variety of experiences. That's why I'm mentioning those things. But what is it that makes it fun to inhabit a space, or happy? No, some people, for example, like in Aleida, was arguing that that, for example, looking out and having views of nature and light is connected to well-being. Maybe that is connected to happiness. In your case, what I'm trying to say is, like, it's important that you guys, when you make these kind of arguments, that you make that translation as to how you have interpreted that, and as a spatial construct, not as a abstract concept, because an abstract concept is very subjective to you. So what is very important is that you tell us, and this is not just for you, this is for everybody as you guys present your projects, that you tell us how these concepts are materialized in a specific design decisions, and how do you make that translation. So this idea of the dream is about dream, or is about happiness? Like, I mean, there's something about that you were saying interesting at the beginning about dreams, and how things can get things that normally wouldn't come together get together in a dream, and therefore there's like it's a bit unclear where something starts and something finishes. So that this concept, for example, you could say, well, I'm interested in this ambiguity between, or in creating a spatial ambiguity between something that, where some special experience starts and where it ends, or between what's interior and what's exterior, or but then starts being something more concrete. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. That was very helpful.
Mm-hmm. But in terms of the design, yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting moments, especially those where you are. Can you go up a little bit to the plans and sections?
Yes.
Especially those where you start paying more attention to the. Oh, you stop sharing.
Sorry. Where?
Yeah, stop here. Stop here in the interior, like where your model. When we see the interior of your model, 1 second.
Interior of my model.
Yeah, the next, yeah, here. So the last thing I wanted to say is that I think it's very nice how you have articulated the facade on the outside. That what you were calling playful too, meaning those incisions are the way that you were treating the facade, and you were starting to sculpt the facade, so that instead of being like a blank wall, it had like insets, and like there's parts in when we look out from the outside to your building, we see parts that are carved, different planes, and that starts making the facade a lot more articulated, a lot more dynamic than if it was just a flat plane. So I think I would encourage you to do that at the level of the interior, and to think of that as opportunities also for occupying that interior space. So not as something that happens only in the facade for looks, but something that can happen in the interior that starts also to qualify the spaces inside. Does that make sense? Because I feel like in your interior, your walls are a lot more flat. They're a lot less articulated. They are so yes, I think just something to think about for the future. No, that those operations that you are doing outside, you can also do inside.
Oh, wait, you mean you encourage that the inside should be more texture like the outside?
Yeah, like it could be, yeah, and there because at the end of the day, you're mostly inside as well. So if it works very nice outside, can work inside as well, and also inside, it can be an opportunity to occupy the space in different ways. Like it can be related to the way that you place furniture and to the way that you occupy the space in general. Mm-hmm. Great work.
Thank you. That was very helpful advices, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Serena. Who's next?
That was good time. Keep the timer just
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
Ethan?
Yes. Just give me a second, please. So my my building was based on the philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre. He was an existentialist philosopher whose main ideas revolved around people's self-actualization being limited due to society and other institutions essentially making decisions for them, whether unknowingly or not. And he said that this people living in this lifestyle where institutions and stuff essentially make decisions for them was called living in bad faith. So through my design, I tried to have a sense of freedom and flexibility for the researchers. And I chose this for my cover photo for a couple reasons that you'll see later. Because for starters, a lot of his philosophies revolved around equity as well. And so for the eating area and the pit, I chose a more circular design. So I feel like that represents the function and what I was going for in terms of tying it with his philosophy. And then this larger area that's sort of not filled to be used to be a more designated area for larger activities for self-actualization, you know, such as dancing or maybe large sculpting or, you know, just stuff like that. So these are my drawings for my building. This is the elevation from the second floor. And so it's a little crude, I'm sorry, but this is like a little area where you sit, and this is a desk, and there's no fenestrations right here. So it's a really area where you just sort of lock in, and you know, the only window on this side really is right here, located right here. So that's why it's a little lighter, but it's a window to where you have to sort of lean back to really engage with it. And then as far as the first floor, it's a little bit more of a communal area. There's this larger desk that multiple colleagues could, you know, sit here and research. And the main generation of my form was creating an area that would allow me to have lots of staircases to allow not just one way to move throughout the building. And again, go back to that, his ideas of freedom and self-actualization. And so this is my sections. And so this is a section looking towards the west. And so this is that desk area I was talking about. And these are some shelves. And as you can see, I have lots of staircases that go throughout each level, connecting all the way from the bottom of the ravine area all the way to the top of the roof. And so I was only able to get half of my actual building done just because this was really hard for me to conceptualize in terms of physically. And I'm sorry for its crudity, but so some of the things that I tried to incorporate as well that are more clearly seen is that I have this area right here for observation to look directly into the pit, and this area for eating. And another one of Sartre's ideas was existentialist idea of like absurdity and like human practices such as like eating. Like when you really break down like having a dinner, it's really such a weird concept. And so I have a lot of these openings into like areas such as here, like a dinner, you know, I have space over here to, you know, maybe just reflect on this more communal area as well. And so there's the little more communal area, like I was saying. And then up here, this is not the side with the desk, this is the other side. And so I tried to have I tried to have as many windows to look into the natural world, because I feel like with philosophy, people are often just staring out, waiting for thoughts to come to them. So that was why I tried to have a lot of fenestrations in my building. But like I said, the one area that and I'm sorry again that I don't have that side of the building complete, because I know it'd be a lot more helpful, would be is the area that I don't have a lot of fenestrations is the more isolated area on the second floor where people really lock into deep thought and stuff like that. Here's more close-up shots of it. Like I said, the staircases that go throughout, multiple staircases that connect the building, and yeah.
Where did you learn? Did you learn in class about Paul Sartre, or did you learn?
I picked him from the list.
You guys were given a list of philosophers?
It was multiple areas that we could choose, and I chose Sartre.
Okay, interesting. Well, I think I like a lot your presentation in that I think you were doing what I was saying earlier. You were being very specific about how you were interpreting these concepts and translating them into a specific material form, right? Or spatial decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in that respect, your presentation was really clear. And that's really good and not so common. So that's really, congratulations on that. And I think the project is also very interesting. I do somehow would raise some things, some issues. For example, with I would like because you presented so clear, then I can tell, I can try to, I can argue back that some of the things that you said maybe can be a bit contradictory at times, in that, for example, if you want to, I understand when you say that you want to provide maximum choice to the user by providing a lot of stairs, a lot of means of circulation around the space, and that is that if you and that you were interested in the freedom of the individual to move. Is that correct, that you were saying that you would like, you wanted your design to allow the occupant to have this freedom of occupation instead of being very constrained, like you were saying, like the constraints of society that don't let you operate out of purely free will? Or is that an intention of the design or not? Or am I misreading?
Yeah, that was the main drive, I'd say, in generating, because the staircases were what I was trying to, that was what I was really, my focal point I was trying to do in my design. Like I said, I was trying to just make it so that it didn't seem like the design had one way that you occupy the building, one way to use the building. If that makes sense.
Well, and then that's where I would say that some of the decisions that you have taken are a little prescriptive, in the sense that, for example, your spaces are very narrow, and they're so narrow that even when you were talking about that communal area, I was wondering if it could really be communal, because if I read if I read the proportions of your building, if I read the staircase as a 3 feet wide staircase, a standard, based on the figure that's walking on them, like if I read that proportion as that your stairs are about 3 feet wide, most of your building is a corridor that is 3 feet wide. So there's, I think, when you talked about, when you showed the biggest space below, and you said this is a bigger space, someone can be sculpting or doing something. It's true that with wider spaces, there's a bit perhaps more possibility for occupying them in different ways, and that when your spaces are so confined, so extremely confined because they're so narrow, there's the possibilities of occupation are perhaps a bit more limited. In the same way, for example, which I love the design of your of your table, and that you started looking at the furniture as well. I think that's very interesting. I think, and I do agree, and that I do agree with you that this kind of, the way the shape is this, for example, this cross this cross shape is equally sided, it implies a certain degree of democratic occupation of the table because every side is the same, right? But at the same time, the fact that it's sunk on the ground and that it's again very prescriptive because I cannot move the chair, and the way that it's so articulated is very much telling me where I can sit and where I cannot sit. If you compare that to a big, like if you compare that to a circular table and moving chairs, that's like the degree of flexibility in how to use that piece of furniture is a lot bigger, right? Than because your design has all these corners, etc. It's very clearly demarcating 4 different sides, and then also because it's sunk, it cannot move. I cannot decide to take that table somewhere else if it was like a freestanding table. So I love the design. All I'm saying is that some of these things, like to think also that some of the things that you have done, despite that you were intending a lot of flexibility, are actually quite prescriptive because of certain decisions that you have taken. So to keep that in mind. But I think it's a very compelling project as well. Really great work.
Well, one thing, if I may address it, part of one of the areas for the design sheet that we had was that we couldn't have furniture. Everything had to be, maybe I'm misremembering it, but everything had to be like built in. So like
but that's fine. If it's not bad that things are built in. What I'm saying is that when they're built in, 100% they're more prescriptive, right? Aren't they?
Exactly, and that was like something I was trying to, and I know that's hard to, because obviously built in is the exact opposite of you know, freedom, you know.
That's why we're having this discussion. All I'm trying for you is to think about these issues, you know. It's not,
yeah, I understand completely.
There's no right or wrong. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Great work. Who's next?
I am. I'll pull it up right now. Okay. So I'm gonna just start off by reading the narrative first. So with the idea that space has a connection with nature and light, this design is inspired by Ellsworth Kelly. The shape of the design finds its own space in relation to its shadows and light. Kelly's artwork is inspired by many rectangles and squares that define a hard edge. As you move throughout the space, you can experience the effects of natural light through the several rectangles that define the space. So just, you know, so you can get a quick definition like the hard edge. It's a form of abstract that is characterized by defined geometric shapes and often bright colors. So I started my design with an open concept idea. Then I worked with the shape to form a relationship with the space around it, mainly focusing on a dynamic relationship between shape, form, and color. But obviously our models are, you know, monochromatic since we're only using one material. So
you should have jumped the rules, just like.
So in this case, the color would be delivered through the fenestration, sunlight, and shadows. So here you have the basement, and this is like what would be a window. That's why it seems very light, because it doesn't cut through anything. And then here is the rooftop, which is more, this part is more like a loft. And this would be defined like as like a sitting area where somebody can sit. And then here are my 2 sections. So this basement would be right here, and right here is like a little book storage shelf. And then the roof would be right here, and then somebody can walk out to like the balcony. And then so like as you can see, my design is like a very open concept space. It isn't defined. There isn't a defined research sitting area because like the like the artist Kelly, I wanted to allow anyone who is in the building to focus their work on a real life observations. And that's why I have several fenestrations. So like here on this side, which this is the left side, and then here you have several fenestrations all throughout the building, which allows people to just observe like nature. And yeah.
Great. Can you go back up? Stop there. Stop there. Oh yeah, here,
Right
here. Here or the next, maybe the drawings. First the drawings. Big, what's going on in this space? Because I don't think a person fits here. What's going on here?
I think when I was doing the image, it kind of got messed up because it was my first time working with this, but originally this is 7 feet, and then the rest are, I'm not sure.
Something is off, because if this person is 6 feet max, that space is a lot smaller.
I'm not sure. Oh, well, to be honest, when I do the sections I have, or like even floor plans, I have a difficult time, like, because I just work as I go, so I don't quite remember the measurements that I do have. So I think I may have gotten one of the measurements off wrong from this side or one of these sides.
Something is definitely wrong with that because of this, the proportions of this person, no? Of the people, they just don't fit up there. So double check that later. But otherwise, the design works very well. It's can we see the first images?
This one?
Yeah, yeah. I think this is the images where we see the design most clearly. How do you go down? In this model, did you make the space to go down to the pit?
So with like I did retouch this my project during the break.
Here it works a lot better, for example. Here, this is believable. Like if we see?
Yeah, that one, I think that one's correct. Back in my drawings, I don't know what happened. I don't know, like, I don't know, something went wrong. But over the break, when I had retouched it, I did have stairs that were right here. And when I was looking at the project again this morning, I realized that I had forgot to include them in every one because I had to retake all my photos. But originally, I did have stairs that were just right here on this side.
Also, are these stairs like just crashing into this floor, or is there a gap there? Or is this person, can this person pierce through or
yeah,
not?
There is a gap there. I don't know if I can show it.
I trust you. No worries.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think same with the first project. When you talk about the importance, if you said that, I mean, obviously it's a pity that you couldn't use color because I think it's very difficult to think about the work of Ellsworth Kelly without color.
Yeah.
But then the second most important aspect that you took away from it is light. You should really photograph these models under natural light so that you can prove those concepts, no? And see how the light enters the building and see what we're looking, when we're looking out through these windows, what kind of relationships do we start having? Which is the moment in your project that you're most proud of? That you like the most, that you imagine yourself being at?
I'd say the view that I'd have from like the outside, like all these windows that just come out. Because I kind of based the windows off of his work, because there is some I can't pull it up, but it's just like rectangles. And even though it's just rectangles, it says a lot about his artwork, which is crazy because I mean, art is rectangles, you know, anybody could do it, but you know, his sends a message throughout. So I try to do that with the building or like the exterior with the these windows right here.
Yeah, where it's interesting because then you do by the fact that you are recessing those, no, that you are extruding those windows, no, that they're projecting out, you start really having these shadows, no, in the facade, and these shadows will change along the day, but they also help read the volume, no? So I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but it was the Corbusier who said that architecture was the play of volumes under the light. So this idea that in the same way as a sculpture, the three-dimensionality of a space can only be appreciated with light. And those of you that are particularly, so it is important for everybody to actually photograph the models in daylight. But mostly for those of you that are thinking about this, about those conditions specifically, no, like you were very interested in light, and so light and even just with this facade and with this model, you can have a lot more mileage with the work that you have done when you make these additional photographs as well, no? So one, with natural light, see how those shadows really enhance the volume of the facade, no? The sculptural work that you have done by pulling those windows out. That would look a lot more beautiful with a stronger light, no? The exact same picture that you have here. And then the other thing would be to, I think, making some of those other photographs that we were saying earlier more experiential, because I'm really curious what it means to for a person to look out of from this window, you know, and maybe positioning your silhouette somewhere here so we can get a sense of how are these spaces experienced from inside, no? And then of course, every time you kind of extrude the windows like this, there's an opportunity to occupy some of them, no? Like they could become almost like balconies, no? They're because of the depth. Can you enter any of them?
Yeah. I don't know if it's able to, let me see. Well, I think I saw it right. Also, right here, these aren't technically like balconies. Like right here, how there's like a step out.
Mm-hmm.
But it's more like a little like ledge that you can just sit on.
Mm-hmm.
This is how it would look, kind of right here. So like, for instance, there would be like probably glass or like a glass door, but then you can step off in this little step right here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like a balcony, but it's more like a sitting place where you can just view the outside.
Well, but there's also the opportunity to maybe enter that one from that plane, right? That those kind of windows potentially. So I think that would be nice. You could have also a very nice sitting area there, like if you had just like a cushion or something, where you can be suspended in that nook. No, it's a kind of like cocoon, and that is quite nice. These kind of openings, right? So I think similarly to what you are doing here with the step above, you could think of occupying some of those moments. And then the last thing I would say, like if you go back up, there is potentially also maybe an opportunity to start thinking of vertically how these spaces connect with each other, and how I can, being in this space, I can look into the next one and into the next one. So how do you create spatial continuity more vertically? Perhaps, for example, if these steps that you have there right now, you have them like this, no? Drawn, this, if I blow this up, these are the ledge, this is the ledge that you were talking about, right?
Yeah.
So I think situations where you have, if you had a situation more like this, you could get the light that comes from here to start coming down also. And then potentially it would be fun to be able to look from underneath and start seeing things above, no? So to start to think also sectionally of the spatial opportunities that you can find connecting these spaces. Because you're almost there, but I feel like you didn't do it in the end. It seems like you started to do with these things, but you didn't do it in the end. But really good work. I think in terms of the proportions of the space and everything, it seems like everything works well. So apart from that little mistake in the drawings, fix it. Because if you put this in your portfolio, anyone that looks at it is going to be like, what? Is this like the John Malkovich? You know, that movie, the half floor of, so yeah, so careful with that. But great work.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Who's next?
It's my turn, sorry.
How many projects do we have left?
Me and then 2 other people. So
Okay,
3
yeah.
left.
And we have half an hour, so yeah, that's about right, no? Okay.
Let me try to share this. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Let me start with that. Okay. Hi, I'm Grace. So my design is based off of Edward Hopper and his series of paintings on American solitude. He was an artist in the earliest 20th century. I think he was born in the late 19th century and died in like the 40s or 60s, I can't remember. But he did a series of paintings kind of called Solitude or American Solitude. And they all showcased like one or a few people in an like urban American landscape, either a house or a restaurant or a street or something like that, either one or a few people alone, and to try to portray the feeling of solitude. And for my design, I wanted to show kind of, or give kind of like an art gallery feeling, considering like the space is meant to like research this topic and these paintings. I wanted to have like large open space for these paintings to be on display, and then like areas to study them where you can see the paintings from.
So yours is a gallery, you said?
Yeah, so with this large open wall, like I kept that mostly blank for space for the paintings, and then these openings on the opposite side so you can like see them and also study in them.
That's very nice.
And I also tried to keep the spaces like small enough, I guess, that only one person could fit in them, I guess, to try to like keep with the feeling of solitude so the person could experience solitude while they were studying it. And then these are my drawings. This, can you see my cursor?
Yes.
Okay, this plan was taken at, I believe, right above like the floorboards, like I think here-ish. and then this plan was cut right below the ceiling. And then this section was cut, I'm trying to see, I think here, somewhere on there, I forgot to draw the lines in. And then this one, I don't remember. But yeah, this is the north side of the drawing. So this section is facing, I think they're both facing south. No, I don't. And these are the section like cuts of the model. And then this is a side view, and then a perspective view. And more, this is like a front view. So this side here is the south facade, and then another perspective view. And then just a bunch of different views. And then I included an extra slide of like detail pictures because there wasn't really a spot to put them in the template. So this I showed like inside, going up the stairs, and yeah, so I wanted to portray like, because I read an article about Hopper's work that said like he wanted to show that there was a difference between loneliness and solitude, and that there can be like comfort in solitude, kind of. So I tried to, I guess, provide that feeling of solitude for the researcher in this facility. That would and for it to be kind of like an immersive experience in the feeling of solitude while they're studying these paintings. And then we can get a good picture all
Show
around
me
like
moments. Like I like a lot when you showed like how you can only see one person, no, with this idea of solitude, you can only see one person there, how you were thinking from that window, from that big opening, you look into the art. Show me one other special moments that you have designed.
yeah. So for these you see these like slits kind of all along the side.
Yeah.
I meant for those to be like windows, so there'd probably be like glass or something. So in order to like keep the walls open and blank, but to also allow some natural light in, to light the paintings well and to provide good lighting for the research. And there's also kind of like a skylight gap there too to light it up. And then let me see if I can find a picture. And then in this extrusion on the side, there's like a floor to ceiling window in it.
I mean, that's very interesting because on the, so am I, where is your, how many windows do you have to the outside? You have these very skinny ones?
Yeah, so I have one on each side, so that's 4, and then a skylight, which is 5, and then the one on this extrusion, which is 6, I think.
And is
and then the door.
Can you show me the bigger one? 1 second.
The bigger one?
Or there's no such a thing?
Yeah, they're all kind of around the same size. I guess this one would be the biggest one.
I mean, I think that what's very interesting is that, I mean, super thoughtful. I really like your presentation and your interpretation of Hopper's work. But I'm sure when in looking at your paintings, you probably noticed that the window has such a huge presence, no, in this moment of almost meditative solitude, where there's always a window and there's always these figures that are inside, but they're looking out in a little bit like in that kind of melancholic solitude way that you're talking about. And yet you don't have any windows here, right? You have mostly these cuts, no, that let light in. But I think, but those actually make a lot of sense when you are thinking of the space as a gallery. So, and that's something that maybe you didn't say explicitly, but you were thinking about.
Yeah.
Now, it's very important that in galleries, if you're going to display art, you don't want to have direct light. So you always want to have either skylights or small light sources to avoid direct light into the paintings. It's the opposite that if you are like exhibiting sculptures, for example, no, because they're the more natural light, like we were saying before, the better that we read the volumes, no.
Yeah.
But not with paint. For paintings, we do need natural light, but not direct, no? So in that sense, that's working very well. But I'm maybe missing that kind of moment, no, of or that kind of aspect of Hopper's work where there's this connection of the inside and the outside, and
Yeah.
your design is very inward focused, right?
Yeah, I tried to kind of include that with this window here. Let me see if you can. Sorry. It's not. I thought I had a better picture of it, but in like this opening here, there's that like floor to ceiling window.
Mm-hmm.
It's still like a pretty skinny one, but I kind of like I did notice the theme in Hopper's paintings of like the window and like the person like looking out of them. So I did try to include that there in that little like standing study space while still also keeping like the best light for an art gallery, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that starts to allow, because being in a space with no views out, it is a little, it does disconnect you from the outside. That's, for example, why often, for example, churches are like that, temples in general, from any religion. They won't have windows necessarily looking out. They have windows for light, but windows that you cannot look out, because they want you to concentrate in the prayers, no, or like it's like a lot more inward focus, right? So you're doing that as well with this project, mostly, I would say. The way where you landed here right now, it has that kind of nature to it, because most of the light, so it's very, you could argue maybe that it enhances concentration like that, as in no distractions, like it's all on the work or the not that is being produced. On the other hand, I think some moments of release to be able to look out and find them strategically, like you were doing with that one, where if it's kind of recessed, the light wouldn't actually enter and touch on the art, but you could go into this nook, no, and look out and have some moments of relief where you can look outside. I think those are important to have as well, no, for an occupant.
Yeah, I do have this door here that it faces. Let me see if I can find a good picture of it. It's like here. So it faces the north, which is like the opposite of this cliffside. So it faces towards like the forest or whatever other land is in there. So I guess someone could like look out the door and into nature to like disconnect in that way.
And that's actually, again, very smart to put them facing north, because you're never going to have direct light entering the building from the north. You're always going to have indirect diffuse light. So windows in the north are also good for the gallery purpose, for study rooms in general, because they don't give you glare, they just give you light, right? But not direct light. So that's all very smart. So I really like that you seem to be very much in control of every design decision, and that is not so common so early on. So really good, really good. That everything very thoughtful. Really enjoyed your presentation. The one little comment that I would say in the end, and this is not, I don't like to end on this, but can you go down with the ramp? Just this is stop there. He would I don't know if this is on purpose, but the way that you have the circulation like that makes it challenging to actually enter, because this is very low here. So and I think there's something fun about that, with that idea of solitude. It's almost like you want to keep that space very private, but I would make sure that I think you could do the same thing if you flip this part to this side, you know, that little last the last plane was on the other side, so you're landing your landing went to there, and from there down, then you would have that boundary that protects the space, that keeps it very private from people coming from this side. But you could actually enter, because right now I think it's almost impossible.
I think I when I was making it, I did think of that. I think I have a closer picture. So here I did make sure, like, I measured it, and I think, like, on this edge here, it is taller than 6 feet. Like, I think I measured it and, like, compared it to my scale models or scale figures. It is taller than 6 feet on this edge here to, like, go underneath to enter the pit area.
But wouldn't it a lot more comfortable to just come from the other side?
Yeah, I do agree that it is difficult to enter. I did have trouble designing that part of the.
It's just a matter of flipping the stair at the bottom, like that. Just that this last bit, placing it on the other side, and then removing a little bit of the the soil there to pushing that back.
Yeah.
So, but really great work. Okay, who's next?
Okay, I believe I'm next. Let me share my screen. Okay, here we go. Okay. So I'm Anastasia. My design was inspired by the artist Ellsworth Kelly and his recurring theme of minimalism in his pieces, which has a recurring emphasis on the pure form and creating spatial unity. Kelly's background in the Army influenced his use of camouflage and form and shadow, as well as the construction and deconstruction of the visible, which ultimately inspired my flat windows, which we'll see later, and then the bookshelves on the slimmer walls of my building. And then we can see like some of the bookshelves that are protruding out from the side view right now of the building. And then the built-in windows and shelving allow for more movement inside of the space. Okay, so these are my drawings. The top two are at elevations. The top left is at an elevation of 24 feet. And so I have let's see if I can get my mouse to work. I'm not sure why it's not showing. Okay, there we go. So I have an elevation line cut here, which is this view, and that's 24 feet. And then this is from 38 feet, which would be this line that goes all the way across here, looking down on. And so you can see the pit from this side, which is the view below the building. The space encourages reflection and disconnect from the outside world while connecting the inhabitants to the outdoors through natural light from a wall of windows which faces the forest on the west. So this is looking, I want to say, this is going to be looking north of the building, and then this is looking south. This is the south view, which is seen again in these two photos. And then these protrusions on the outside of both of the longer walls allow for essentially one ceiling inside of the space, which would be the roof, and a more open feeling. I'll go up here. There's a walkway that starts right here once you come up these stairs. The second floor. And then there's gonna a hole in the middle essentially to allow just higher walls and a less confined feeling, which leads you to the balcony on the north face, and then walking across the east wall to these bookshelves that protrude out, and then to the south wall where the sleeping area is. And so these bookshelves on the second floor can be used for personal storage. And on the first floor, the bookshelves can be used for work storage, for research, as they're both near the research areas for the desks and seats. Okay, so the sleeping area pictured here is essentially protruding from the building instead of taking up space inside of the walls to prevent a feeling of confinement when the inhabitant is on the bottom floor sitting at a desk. It just allows for more open space inside. And then the site void, which is this area, is only accessible from the south by a ladder, which I believe is pictured. This is the ladder here. And this photo was taken before these like final photos. And so I had to take these 2 weeks ago since I had to leave like a week early before the project was due, and realized when I got home that the only, like, I didn't have any photos of the inside besides this one, which is why the backgrounds don't match. But yeah, so the site down here is only going to be accessible from the south, which is by the front over here, from a ladder, and it's directly below the building and only seen from standing above it on the south side of the building looking down.
Great. I really like, I mean, it would be nice for this image, if this is the only one that you have, that you crop it in Photoshop, no? And that you get rid of all of these, no? Like it would
I
make,
agree.
yeah, it would be nicer for your portfolio, no? That's a very minor comment. No? But your the design is really, what I like about your design is how you found a way of doing things and you stayed consistent with it. And you started exploring the different opportunities that came with this idea of protruding. So you have basically your project is in a way very simple because it's really like a cube, no? Compared to others. But then you start generating more variety in the space by making those protrusions, no? Those, and sometimes you make them, and correct me if I'm misinterpreting something, but sometimes you make them bookcases, right? Sometimes is the sleeping area. And I think it could be interesting to treat in a similar way the entrance, where it can also have more of a threshold, no, become like deeper like that, and also the openings that you, for some reason, you treat very differently, no. But I think there's something very appealing in the way that you're starting, that your volume is starting to have those those protrusions, and that they serve different purposes. But even though they serve different purposes, you are having a consistent, you found a spatial mechanism to start dealing with these issues, and you are consistent with that. So that's, I think that's something that is interesting in the project, because I mean, is as a strategy, as a design strategy, is something that help us get or achieve sometimes harmony, no? Because you consistently use the same spatial the same spatial action, no? So they're like all the different things that you did are interrelated. They're different because sometimes it's a bookshelf, they have different proportions, and sometimes it's a bed, and it could also be a window, etc. But they are part of the same way of doing things. So then all together they read harmonic. Does that make sense? So
Yes, thank you.
I think that's very successful in your project, that that you did that, and also it seems very well. It seems very well thought through. I wonder, like, for example, the moments like this, where is this also a bookshelf that is that is inserted there?
Yes, that's a bookshelf, and it's like laying flat on the wall. So it's like coming out into the space.
So that's a little tricky then, no? With the staircase, if it's protruding out or not.
Yes, I had to make it just wide enough and then place it high enough so that essentially one could walk under it and then also have space if they didn't want to walk under it to walk like around it.
Meaning I thought I thought the idea would be, I mean, you know, bookcases are great to have along stairs because you have to, it's like a corridor, a stair is like a corridor, it's just inclined vertically, you know? So, but I cannot, I need to be able to access it. So they need to be at a certain, if what you're saying is that I walk under it, then I cannot access the books. So, and I think in that sense, it could be interesting to, or even to make a bigger area, or to recess it, or it's an opportunity also to think more closely of the body and how the body reaches out for those books there in a way that is a bit more natural, perhaps, than because I think this big wall here, that's like a great opportunity that you're thinking about in putting more bookshelves there. Just maybe could be revisited, no? Every time we make a design decision, we can make like 3 iterations at least. No, so all I'm saying is like, is this the perfect position for the bookcase? I'm not 100% convinced, you know. I would, if this was my project, I would explore to see if it wants to also be recessed in the wall, what the thickness of the stair needs to be for that to be there, how deep that can that be, etc. No, the position so I can reach for the books nicely and all of that. But yeah, I think this is really great. And then to think, the last comment would be to think about the roof plane just in the same way that you thought about the side planes, where you could also have those kind of protrusions. Maybe it's a skylight. Maybe you have like a nice skylight at the top of the stair that invites you to move on, and you do it in a similar way where you kind of extrude it. So thinking that you can also sculpt that roof plane, that it doesn't need to, that you don't need to be limited just to the side walls. But really, really nice work.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Sharing.
And the last project? Michelle? Okay, you sound very, for some reason, you sound really low. See if you can. I think that's better.
Is it better?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Oh, yeah. So my idea was basically to create a place where like an astronomer could focus on their research and not be distracted by other aspects of the world. The project places like the windows. Oh, sorry.
Say astronomer?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Did you say astronomer?
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
And essentially just like place the windows higher for verticality, and also so it would be out of the eye line of the users. And I also placed a large terrace on the backside where it would be needed for like the astronomer to see when the moon comes up on the east side, and where you can place different instruments. I want to mainly focus on this portion because there aren't any other pictures where I could show the pit where there's like a staircase that I put inside where you can access it. And I thought that was yeah, the only part about this drawing. Yeah. And for the sectional models, you can see how they're expansive walls to allow for different like star charts or maps or like big pieces of paper for data to be pasted on the walls and referenced when working. And I thought that if I put different partitions, it would be kind of hard to see from like one wall to another when they're trying to reference it. And because the structure is basic, users can concentrate on the sky, which I think embodies astronomy. Most of the features on the building are placed on the other faces, except the front where the user would walk to and from. Um, and the ceiling is made out of like several different sized skylights to represent what I think constellations would look like. And this is just another elevation. And over here, I think you can see how the ramp kind of detaches. And I wasn't sure if like this is possible, but I want it to be a way to isolate the astronomer so that throughout the other parts of the building, everything is basically connected. But through my research, I found that astronomers like to have places where they can just like isolate themselves and focus solely just by themselves. So if they had any guests over, it would be easier if they had like one place just to themselves. And I thought that by detaching the ramp, it would like, you know, make that part of the terrace just like for themselves. Yeah. And then I thought that there would be a sense of verticality as I picked the maximum height for support. Like you could have a 4-foot, 8-foot, or 12-foot, and I picked the highest one. And then I also had the windows either vertically or placed higher so that it's more vertical. Yeah. And most of the instruments take up a lot of room. So I wanted to have a lot of space for that. So that's why there aren't a lot of rooms and it's more open. And this place in particular, I wanted it to be where, you know, you could put like a telescope and how a lot of telescopes can range in different sizes. So you can have a lot of space or not a lot of space depending on how much, how big the telescope the astronomer could buy. I think that's it. Yeah. Wait, sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Better. Do you hear me? You hear me, Michelle?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, great. Well, this is a nice project to finish with. I think this is again, like your peers, I think you've done a great job at in this case, identifying some aspects of this life of the astronomer that you wanted to highlight, like this idea of them looking into the sky, that outdoor room upstairs is really nice, that kind of path, terrace, cantilever terrace, no, where they can put the telescope and look out. I think that's all very nice. I think it would, for your portfolio, perhaps it would be nice to actually, I mean, like in the same way that you build a silhouette, you could make a little telescope and place it there. It would be nice to maybe place, make in Photoshop, like if you put your phone in that upper room and you look into the sky, which is probably is the most exciting moment in your project with all the skylights, right? It would be easy to make like a collage where you make maybe you, I know this was not a requirement for you guys to do. I know that's not part of the things that you had, that you were asked to do for this final submission. but it's such an important thing in your project that I think it would be nice to see what is it to look up, and also to put your phone in a position inside the model where you can capture what it is to look up from that space, and then potentially even taking that photograph and then taking it to Photoshop and putting the sky behind the no behind those openings. And I think even if it's not for your portfolio or a requirement, I think it's an important proof of concept, because, for example, the fact that the roof plane has a thickness, when your some of these perforations that are so small, when these perforations are so small in section, if I have, if this is the roof and there's a big opening, and then versus a small opening like this, if I'm underneath and I am looking up, I know here I'm going to be looking at the sky, but there are a lot of chances here that the only way I would be able to look at the sky is if I was like right underneath it, you know? Because if I'm looking from the side, I'm just going to be looking at the wall, you know? If I'm looking at from here, I cannot really look out. So to see if what you're designing is what you really want to do and is being experienced in the way that you want it to, if it's working the way that you want it to work. Is it a desire that it only works when you line up underneath? Do you want to see it from farther back? Would it even be, is this something that would maybe even want to be a full glazed ceiling? But then of course it wouldn't want to be flat. So because flat ceilings of glass don't really work, no, because they collect all the water and leaves and it would get very dirty, right? So it would be better if it was something more curved or inclined in one direction, no? But then you could start having one maybe full plane of glass, but depending on what the weather would be, maybe during the day it would actually be problematic. In Austin, it could collect a lot of heat, a lot of sun, no? So, but I mean, these are all interesting things to start thinking about, no? That I mean, and at the end of the day, you guys have like a limited time to do this design, and today, I hope that, and this is for all of you, is just a matter of, for you guys, this is another proof of concept when you guys do these designs and you present it to somebody that doesn't know your project. And then in this case, it was me, but it could have been anyone. And to see how this person understands your ideas, to see, and then sometimes I may be talking about something else that you were not thinking about, and that may either mean that you didn't explain something very clearly, so I didn't understand it, and then I started talking about something else, or that, or maybe hopefully something that interests you too, and that is connected to what you were doing. But I think what I mean is that at the end, these are all, if this was the design of a building, this would be what you guys did today. This would be like a very early stage where what is a perfect stage to start having these conversations that we are having. So it's not a criticism when I say, what if the ceiling was like this? What if the ceiling was like that? It's the moment where these projects are at that is defined enough to have those conversations, but still abstract enough where that the project could keep evolving, that invite for these kind of conversations, and that's what I think is very interesting, and very rich in all of your projects, that you all your projects were inviting these kind of conversations and inviting and triggering my imagination, or the imagination of the observer, into thinking, how would these spaces would be if they were built, right? But really, all of you, wonderful work. I think I'm very impressed how much you got the maturity of the projects, given the fact that even though of course you've been working with your instructors because of this whole online thing, there was a lot of more work individually than usually. I mean, usually you would do the same work individually, but if you are all together in one room, you're more aware of what everybody's doing. So in that sense, this is really, really impressive throughout. I really enjoyed every single project that I saw this morning. So congratulations on finishing the semester. And yeah, and I hope I see you in the coming years. Well, I'm sure I will see you in the coming years in other reviews, in other circumstances. So I look forward to see how you guys continue to develop your skills and mature as designers. Yeah, and with that, I think we're kind of done for the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Nice to meet you all.